大家好，欢迎来到表叔侃世界。今天呢，我邀请了我的这位好朋友 Frank McNeil 来到我们这个频道。Frank 和我是是非常好的朋友，而且呢，他也跟我去过中国。他曾经是我们这儿的市议员，过去呢也在这个伊利诺这个参议院里工作。后来呢，他也是我们这个伊利诺伊州交通部的副部长。那个时候他是我的顶头上司。后来共和党上台以后呢，他辞了职，到我的公司里来工作。那么今天呢，我想请这位非常传统的长时间的民主党人来分享一下他是如何看待这次总统大选的。当然了，因为他不能说中文，他说完以后我会给大家的简单的翻译一下。Hey Frank, thank you very much for for coming to my program. I'm really interested in listening to your opinion about the presidential election. What do you think? Who's going to win?
Well, Brian, I appreciate you offering me the opportunity to give my opinion. Of course, I'm very opinionated, but I think Kamala Harris is going to win, and I think there are several factors that lead up to her winning.OK，
那么 Frank 他非常高兴来到表叔侃世界这个节目。他说他的这个观点是很强的。他呢个人认为这个贺锦丽他会赢。贺锦丽 that's her Chinese name.
Right.
She got when she was in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a Chinese friend very close to her gave her a Chinese name. So in the Chinese social media and the Chinese media, they use that name.
Well.Let me continue on, Brian. First and foremost, I think one of the main issues is the Dobbs decision or the abortion decision that restricted women's right to make their decision about their bodies. I think women have finally taken that to heart, and I think the woman's vote is going to be critical.To the victory for Kamala Harris.
那 Frank 呢？他个人认为这一次总统大选，这个女性的投票是非常重要的。为什么呢？这个女性，特别是在最近这几年来对这堕胎这个问题，在美国它是一个既敏感又很重要的这么一个话题。很多这个妇女呢，她们认为这个堕胎是她们的权利，所以 Frank 个人认为。关于这个问题呢，很多女性可能会投这贺锦丽的票那么也是贺锦丽能够取胜的关键一票，就是来自于女性的这个选票。
The second issue I think is very critical is tariffs. Tariffs will harm the United States economy to a huge extent, and it will increase the deficit.And I think it will make trade more difficult between countries like China and the United States.
那么 Frank 他认为第二个他认为比较关键的一个问题就是关于关税的问题。他说，这个关税呢，如果再进一步提升的话，会严重的造成这个通货膨胀，也会影响国与国之间的贸易，比如说和中国之间的贸易，会对这个经济造成负面的影响。
Third thing I think is going to be critical is immigration. I think the real negative tone that former President Trump has taken as far as immigrants are concerned, and the fact that he's talking about rounding up immigrants and putting them in camps, I think sends a really bad signal for immigrants wherever they come from, whether they're from China or Mexico or wherever. I think his approach to immigration.is not a good approach, and America has been known as the melting pot for many years, and all of a sudden we don't include other people in our country.
那么 Frank 他刚才说了，他关注的第三个问题呢是涉及到移民这个问题。他说，这个前总统特朗普呢曾经多次宣称过，说要把这些移民，当然了，刚才Frank 说的是移民，他没有说非法移民，所以说移民会把他们都圈起来，然后把他们遣送出去，不管你是从哪儿来的。那么 Frank 认为呢，就是说美国是一个移民的大熔炉，也是一个移民的国家。这个特朗普的这种说法和做法都是不好的。
The fourth thing I think is Project 2025, which has all kinds of negative consequences for American people. Social Security, the Affordable Care Act, he's talking about shutting off. those kinds of things will have a very, very negative impact on the American people and the American economy.
他刚才这个 Frank 说了，还有一个呢，他的关注呢就是所谓的2025计划。这个2025计划呢，实际上是一些共和党保守派们起草的这么一个纲领吧，可以说是一个施政的纲领。当然了，特朗普呢已经多次强调他跟那个没有关系。刚才 Frank 就是说，在这个纲领里面呢，它涉及到很多美国人的亲身利益，比如说像什么医疗保险等等。他认为是不妥当的。But I heard that he said many times he has nothing to do with Project 2025 我就说这个特朗普多次说过，他跟那个没有关系。
He's been known to lie quite a few times also, Brian.
Frank 说，你知道特朗普他是出了名的这个爱撒谎的人。
You cannot believe what he says.
他说你不能相信他在说什么。
Most of the members, most of the people that put together Project 2025 have direct relationships to former President Trump. They either worked in his cabinet or were part of organizations that worked for his cabinet or worked for him as a president. So to say he has no knowledge of Project 2025 is just a huge whale of a lie.
他刚才说，就是说起草这个2025计划的这些人要么就是这个特朗普前朝的这些官员或者是关系很密切的人。如果说特朗普否认说不知道这些事，或者是与这无关，他说这是不可能的。So what else, issues that most concern you?
The appointment of judges to federal court and Supreme Court. If he gets 4 years, he may possibly have another 2 justices he could appoint to the Supreme Court. But federal judges, as they retire, he gets to appoint federal judges. And the appointment of federal judges has been critical in a lot of the cases that he's facing as a individual now. And because of the Republican or hard-right federal judges he's appointed, they have given him a lot of cover. So I think getting the justice system back in order and appointing very qualified federal judges, because a number of his judges were deemed unqualified, including Eileen Cannon and several other judges that he appointed, even though the American Bar Association deemed them unqualified.
那么刚才Frank 提到了一个问题，可能大家平日不是特别关注的问题，那就是说，一旦这个特朗普上台的这4年，他可能会提名就是2位美国最高法院的这个大法官，还有其他的联邦法官。那么刚才 Frank 也提到了，特朗普本身就是官司缠身如果把一些他认为是比较支持川普的这些法官任命到联邦法院各个地方的联邦法院，肯定就是为这个特朗普提供这个 cover 就是能够掩护这位特朗普老兄，所以他认为呢是对这个司法的一个破坏吧。I think this is, for most of the Chinese audiences, they may not even heard about it.
That's a major issue. Yeah, that's a major issue here. The other factor, Brian, is that the Republican Party or the Republican National Convention has become a family affair. His daughter-in-law has no understanding on how to run the operation, and it's strictly been run as a family operation. Unlike the Harris campaign, is very detailed, very to the point, and they have what we call momentum. They have huge numbers of workers working precincts and polls and around the country. Her messaging is better than his messaging. He continues to tell the same old sad stories about how a millionaire had such a tough life.
很好玩Frank 刚才说这个共和党现在已经成了这个特朗普家里的这个family affair, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, his daughter-in-law is now the chairman of the Republican National Committee.
Okay.
And she had no knowledge or no operational skills prior to him just making her
他的刚才我漏掉了一些翻译啊，就是说啊，这个特朗普的 daughter-in-law 就是 daughter-in-law 是媳妇儿吧，儿媳妇儿对吧？是儿媳妇儿被任命为共和党全国委员会的主席了。那么 Frank 认为他根本就缺乏各种各样的组织能力和活动能力。共和党已经成了特朗普家族的像家务事儿一样了，他而不像海尔斯就是贺锦丽这边，在全国各地各个选区各个地方有大批的人非常的活跃于基层的组织活动，而不像特朗普把持着共和党成为一个家庭内部的事务。
The final thing that I will say is that his continual insulting of all races, to never come back and say he was sorry about the comedian's statement that Puerto Rico was an island of garbage. And, it's just, it's unacceptable, Brian. He constantly denigrates people and denigrates, I'm not only talking about people, but whole races of people, whole societies of people. And he thinks it's okay. I think that a lot of the immigrants, the Hispanic population, going to make another decision that's not going to be very familiar for him, very favorable to him, I should say.
他刚才说这个特朗普呢一直在贬低或者是攻击各个种族的人，因为前不久不是在一次竞选造势大会上嘛，应该在纽约麦迪逊花园广场上，其中有一位在美国比较有名的应该是 comedian right 一个 guy 一个就是有点像喜剧演员，他在那上面发表演讲的时候呢，他把这个波多黎各形容成是海岛，就是海洋里的一个垃圾站一个。波多黎各是美国的领土，所有居住在波多黎各上的居民呢，基本上都是美国公民。这个我给大家普及一下。而波多黎各呢，按照人口的百分比来算，在过去一直是参与美国军队，参军的人数是最高的百分比最高的这么一个地方。所以呢，刚才 Frank 说呢，他不光是攻击或者是贬低其他族裔，而且呢没有道歉过也从来不道歉，认为这个是应该的，或者是能够被接受的。这一次在选举当中呢，很多的移民或者是拉丁裔的人士可能会给他一个惊奇，意思就是说不会投票给他。
The final thing that I will talk about is his lack of empathy for anyone, and for him to consort with known Nazi sympathizers who don't believe in the Holocaust and who continually denigrate the race of this Israeli people, I think shows a real lack of understanding of history and real lack of understanding of race relations in this country. And that's not the image that we want to send around the world.
刚才呢 ，Frank 说了就是说这个特朗普呢缺乏同情心，而且呢，有这种就是说好像是偏向纳粹的这种言论。因为最近呢，这个美国有一些报道，说是这个他曾经赞扬过希特勒，但是究竟是真是假，我们也不清楚。然后呢，他就说这个。You just mentioned about the Israeli. What do you mean? I thought he moved the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
But he has consorted. He has had dinner with a Nazi sympathizer. He had dinner. I don't engage with those kind of people.
他说就是刚才我就反问他，我说因为他曾经提到他对以色列的历史或者是其他历史缺乏了解。他说他经常会和一些就是这个特朗普会经常和一些同情纳粹或者是支持纳粹的人有这种关系究竟有没有我们并不清楚。但是呢，Frank 刚才提到了他对特朗普对这个历史是缺乏了解的，那么不希望美国在外国给外国人造成一个什么形象呢？就是说这个美国人是支持这种人的。
I mean, he has a circle of friends who don't believe that the Holocaust was real.
他刚才我遗忘了漏了，就是说 他说呢，特朗普不相信这个纳粹集中营是存在的。You think that's real? That he doesn't believe?
Well, he's such a liar, Brian. You don't know what he believes. And
他说特朗普是个爱撒谎的人，所以你无法相信他。
I mean, you can never understand what his true belief is because he's lied so many times, and he's constantly, in my opinion, ripping the American people who support him off with all of the tennis shoes, golden tennis shoes, and Bibles, and watches, and all of these things, and all of this money is going to him.
当然了，Frank 刚才说的就是说，因为他经常说谎，所以你也不知道他哪些方面说的是真的，哪方面说的是假的。Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
You know, we heard a lot news, or we saw a lot of news report that many minorities, including African Americans and Latinos, including people from Puerto Rico who
Right.
live in the U.S., they said, they don't trust the media, and many of them are going to vote for him. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that you're always going to have some people who, regardless of what the facts are going to take an opinion that might be contrary. But in the last 3 to 5 days since the statement was made at his Madison Square Garden, he's lost support of even one of the people who said they were a big supporter. One of the Puerto Rican rap artists has now gone out and made a commercial saying he's not supporting Trump anymore. The African American, you can always find African Americans who are always contra to the Democrat Party or whatever the party may be. But I still think that Vice President Harris will win the majority of African Americans and Puerto Ricans, and I think the number will be larger than what they're expecting.
刚才呢，我就有一个问题我就是说，大家也从这个媒体上看到了。那么最近呢，一些非裔美国人，或者是拉丁裔的，甚至居住在美国的波多黎各人，他们都对媒体表示，无论媒体怎么说，他们都会投票给特朗普。那么 Frank 刚才解释说呢，当然这种人肯定是有，每个人都有不同的观点嘛。在民主党内，包括在民主党内这个很多支持民主党的非裔美国人，他们也是无论民主党做什么，他们可能也有不同的意见。但是呢，他个人认为这一次大选当中，大多数非裔美国人是会投票给这个贺锦丽的，包括这个拉丁裔。那么投票的人数可能还会超出于民主党的预估的人数。So, how many hours left?
We got, 24 hours well, polls close tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the east, most of them, and 7 o'clock out west. So we have probably approximately to about 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yeah, 刚才 Frank
说
说
for all of the polls to close.
Yeah.
But still, you won't get results
Right.
tomorrow night. There may be, and then
In the morning?
It'll probably be Wednesday morning before we have a full idea of who's won.
Yeah. 那么其实现在没有多长时间了，到明天投票站关闭通常都是在7点钟，晚上7点钟各个投票站就彻底关门了所以明天可能会有很多的人去投票。当然了，投票之后还要进行计票。那么刚才 Frank 说，我们很有可能是在礼拜3的上午能够大概知道这个选票的状况，还有就是谁能够入主白宫。那么okay, another question. What's going to happen if either party, both parties are so close the elections,
Well,
so
the former President Trump has already set up that he's going to be cheated. He's already laying the foundation that this is a rigged election. So we don't know what he may do, but he and his cohort, Steve Bannon, will probably propose or come back with some kind of aggression against the election authorities and making claims that he was cheated out of the election, as he did the last time. And his own person told him, and his own attorney general told him he was not cheated.
那么刚才我问如果万一就是两方面因为这个 选票比较接近啊，再次引起争端怎么办啊 ？Frank 刚才说，他说实际上这个特朗普呢，现在就已经开始在造这个舆论，他可能会被欺骗啊，等等等等。一旦出现所说的情况，那很可能啊，到时候特朗普可能又会这个会不会鼓动，就像上一次曾经出现过的一些动荡啊，这个东西也很难说。所以呢我们还要继续的观察。So Frank, you know, like many of your friends are Democrats. Do you think they are all voting for Harris? Because I heard, I heard a lot of people talking about, some Republicans, they are tired of Trump.
Yes.
Okay, they are going to vote for Harris. And some Democrats, they are tired, the high prices for gas or inflation or out of control border, they possibly vote for Trump and they would not tell anybody else. Are those people exist?
Yeah, they exist, Brian. But if you look at and then let me go to the next level, the national media, and as much as Trump complains about the national media, there has been disparate treatment of Harris by the national media. They're not questioning Trump on the very same issues they're questioning her on, and they're not asking for the specifics from Trump that they asked for Harris. And in addition to that, the economy is probably the best economy in the world right now. The income versus our income has been raised in the last 3 years over about 5%, and inflation has gone down over the last 4 years under Biden and Harris. And while it is not taken on the context that they'd like it to, those people who are investing are really making a lot of money because the stock market is the best it's been in the last 5 years.
那么刚才呢，我就问到了一个问题啊，就是说，无论是在哪一个党啊，都有一些人可能对自己的党表达不满，而去把票投给对方，这是有可能的。比如说，有些共和党人呢，他们是不喜欢特朗普的，所以他们肯定会把他们的票呢投给贺锦丽。而一些人呢，可能也对最近这2年的高物价表示不满，或者是对边境表示不满啊，那么就把票投给这个特朗普啊。我问 Frank 这种人存在不？他说这种人肯定是存在的，但是呢，大家要看到，在过去这几年，这个很多人的收入是增加了的，然后呢，不少的人在投资，就是在各类投资上都有很好的收益，这种收益是非常高的，这是刚才 Frank 所要说的。So, what else you want to say?
Well, I just want to say in closing, Brian, that this is a watershed election. The country can go forward or it's going to go backwards if Trump is elected. He has said the kinds of things that he wants to do will not be in the best interest of the United States, nor its residents of the United States, to take away the Affordable Care Act, to continue to say that he's going to cancel Social Security, and those kinds of issues.
Cancel?
Well, he said he's going to eliminate Social Security.
OK， 刚才呢，我就问这个 Frank 还有什么话要说吗？他就是说，这个特朗普呢，如果真的上台了，那么很多事情恐怕对美国并不是特别有利的，其中就是包括一些健保的一些法案，他说他可能要取消，还有包括这社保等等。好，那么我们今天呢就这个跟 Frank 聊到这儿啊，给大家来分享一下民主党人的对这次大选的一些看法，希望大家喜欢。第一次观看表述看世界的朋友们呢，欢迎你订阅表述看世界这个频道，咱们下次再见 ，Thank you， 拜拜。